KPRC2's original true crime docuseries, The Evidence Room, is back tonight with a case that touched the lives of almost every person, if not every person, in our area. The murder of 11-year-old Josue Flores. Joining me now is KPRC2 investigative reporter Robert Arnold. Thank you so much for coming in to chat about this. You know, a lot of people, I was not here for this, but I've since covered subsequent stories, but a lot of people remember this story like it was yesterday.
How can you not?
Yeah.
As you said, there's not a person in this entire area that was not affected by this. You have an 11-year-old boy, a block and a half from his own house, just walking home from school, broad daylight. That's not supposed to happen. These things are not supposed to happen. An 11-year-old should be able to walk home from school without worrying about he's going to be stabbed to death by a complete and total random stranger. And so, yes, I mean, it was terrifying, and nobody knew why. There was no reason for it.
It's heartbreaking, and to know that this happened in 2016.
Yeah.
In recent years. So walk us through. You know, I was reading police initially arrested someone for the crime. There was a sigh of relief among the community, the greater metro area, but then those charges were dismissed?
Okay, this was a really difficult case. So naturally there was an immense amount of pressure. My God.
And you covered this in real time too, right?
I was working that night as what we call a general assignments reporter.
Yeah.
I was working a night shift that night, and that was the assignment that evening was Josue's murder. And so there was this immense amount of pressure. I mean, who would stab an 11-year-old on the street just for no apparent reason? So they originally arrested one gentleman whose wallet was found near the area. This individual had a history of some violent acts, so he looked similar to the description given by people who had called 911. Turns out that person had an alibi. They arrested him. They announced they arrested him. They announced that they believe he's the prime suspect in Josue's murder. Then when they went and investigated his alibi, they found out he was nowhere near the crime when it happened. Right, so his alibi was verified. They released him, said, we're very sorry, you know, we checked out his alibi, he is not at all responsible for this murder. They released him. Then you had another man arrested by the name of Andre Jackson, and this came after police and investigators were able to stitch together a network of surveillance cameras. So you see this person running away from where Josue was stabbed, and this person has a very distinct jacket on. Well, they released that photo to the public. A person who owns a convenience store in the area goes, hey, I recognize that jacket and that guy. He was in here the other day. So they get video of that. They see that that person who matches the description with that jacket uses the ATM. They get the ATM records. That gives them a name. So they go and arrest this person, Andre Jackson. And it's like, great, all the pieces are falling in place now. They charge him with murder. They did that before the DNA test came back on the jacket. The DNA test came back is inconclusive. Oh my goodness. So the district attorney's office at the time was concerned about taking it to trial without that DNA evidence, even though it was what prosecutors believed was a strong circumstantial case, because if they got a not guilty verdict, that's it. You can't come back and retry the person because of double jeopardy. So they made the decision to dismiss the charges against him and release this person. And then it was about 2 years later that advances in DNA testing came about. The jacket was retested, the case was resurrected. So what we got to do was we got to go through all the evidence that was used in the Andre Jackson murder trial. We also sat down with the prosecutors and they take a step-by-step how that evidence linked him, how it resurrected the case, and how it was presented to a jury. It was a long process. I mean, it would be 6 years in between the time that Josue was murdered and Andre Jackson was convicted.
A lot of back and forth. You know, we're running out of time, but I do want to ask you before I let you go, for folks interested in watching tonight's episode, what are some of the pieces of evidence they will be able to see in tonight's show?
You'll see exactly how they put together that network of surveillance cameras. I mean, it literally traces Josue's route from school to the point where he's attacked, and it traces Andre Jackson from where Josue was attacked all the way back to the Salvation Army shelter where he was staying at the time. So you'll get to see how all that was stitched together, and you'll see that jacket. You'll see how that jacket and why that jacket was so incredibly unique and why it was so crucial in identifying a suspect in the first place.
Yeah, and being the reporter on that assignment that evening, covering it today, being a parent, it's jolting.
Well, I mean, I remember telling people that night all I could see was my son's face. At that time, my daughter hadn't been born at that time, but that's all I could see was my son's face. It's like, you know, this can't happen. I mean, you can't have an 11-year-old just walking home from school getting stabbed. It's unfathomable. Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, tonight's episode of The Evidence Room streams at 6:30 right here on KPRC 2+.